Welcome to the When We Cry Book Club podcast, where we will be discussing Umineko's 4th episode. This is our 5th part in our episode discussion following the massacre of 6 of the people on the island in a wild magic massacre. I am your host, Lorenzo.
I am Des.
And this is your friendly neighborhood mushroom.
And we did that in one take! Oh my god, I'm so good. Okay, that's it, guys. The episode's over. I can leave now.
Roll credits!
Yeah.
I swear to God, one day we'll have to make like a bingo card for episodes, and one of the squares has gotta be Lorenzo fucks up the intro, and the other square has gotta be mushroom insults someone.
Oh, me? Yeah, constantly.
Yeah, you'd fill up that card really fast. But other than that, we're doing great. How is everybody? What's going on with your lives?
I'll go first just to say something, two small things.
Okay.
I finished reading Stormlight Archive, or not reading all of it, but there's only 4 books out. There's going to be projected 10 books in the series.
Oh.
Every book was 1,000 pages. So I basically read 4.5k pages through 2 weeks.
Cool.
It was extremely good.
The saga continues.
Yeah, it's extremely good. It's funny because the last book, which is the last one I had to read, I actually couldn't even read it in Chinese because the Chinese version wasn't online. So I actually had to read my friend Dub's just like physical copy, and that took me like a week because a physical copy just reads slower and it's in English, but it was still a great time. I just loved it. It was so
True
good.
torture. Reading in English? Oh, I can't believe.
No, I thought it was really good.
Physical books hinder my capabilities of reading fast. They hold me back.
Yeah, but yeah, my girl Shallon the best. I'm thinking about start drawing Stormlight Archive X Umineko art, but like it's honestly speaking such a weird, the niches of niches. So
hey, do it. If you have the capability, you just do it. That's the magical thing about art.
it's crazy because there's so much parallels between Stormlight Archive and Umineko. It hurts my brain.
Awesome. Oh my god.
Okay, to be fair, both of those are long as fuck, so it was so something was bound to connect to.
I'll talk about this in the spoiler section just because I wanted to tell you and I forgot to say it in the last episode. But yeah, it's fucking wild. Also, due to the unfortunate events of 3 Hopes getting announced, I got back into playing 3 Houses.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes, I cannot tell you about the pain and suffering I've been going through this week after the announcement of Xenoblade 3 and the fact that my Switch is at my father's place and I'm at my mother's place and I cannot replay any of the Xenoblade games.
Okay, well, for the listeners out there, Des's current Discord profile picture is one of the characters from the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 trailer with like thousands of emoji hearts littering her face.
Yes.
So he seems pretty excited.
I've gotta say, I was not even hyped. I was just honestly happy to see my girl Nia again.
All right. Well, because of that, Xenoblade Chronicles did get put on my and 3 Houses because I got both of them in like a sale like a few months ago, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play these games, and I've been looking at my friends list to see like the average on how long it takes to play them. Playing both of them is gonna take over 500 hours. So I'm like,
what? No, they're long, but they're not 500 hours long.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe my friend really liked 3 Houses. Who knows?
Yeah, me too. But like, you don't need.
Some people could play 3 Houses until 500 hours. Like I know people who play.
Exactly. You can put in more hours, but you don't need to.
For all the routes?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I mean, depends on the difficulty, of course.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I'm stupid. I'm probably going to take 600 hours trying to beat it.
Vibe though, that's basically me. I play so slow. I was talking to somebody else who basically beat the whole game in like 200 hours, like all 4 routes, and I was like, oh.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, they were cheating.
What a master tactician.
So yeah, who wants to go next?
Lorenzo, you can go next.
Sure, because I did kind of just talk about more games I was going to play, but my most recent development was I got coronavirus.
Whoa.
But I'm okay now. It was,
yeah.
I had a relatively mild case. I got to take a mini vacation off of work, and I beat 3 games.
Jesus
And I
Christ.
logged in 30 hours in Shin Megami Tensei 5. It was amazing.
I feel like Lorenzo likes making everybody likes to make fun of the fact that I read lots of books, but like it's really concerning how fast Lorenzo finished games.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll take that as a compliment. Okay, thanks. But a couple of the games I played were work in progress games. Like I had been playing Astral Chain and Returnal before, and then I just wrapped them up.
Oh yeah, did you finish Astral Chain then?
Yeah, I did not like it. I mean, I love the combat parts. It's just that everything that wasn't combat, it's, to make an analogy, the Beast Legion.
Yeah.
It felt like the Beast Legion where like all of its parts felt shoehorned in, you know?
Oh, you think so? I guess.
Okay. It was like if you played Luigi's Mansion, but to like 100% the game, you also had to actually vacuum the mansion. You know what I'm saying? Like, picking up all the red matter. It's basically a vacuuming side quest, and it was okay. I mean, because when I play games, I do like to explore everything I can, and if I like miss anything, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But that red matter was so tedious. All the side quests were so tedious, and I'm like, I did like the side quests that was basically you as a cop beating up the general public, because I'm like, what? It's just the mission is kill these people. I'm like, oh, okay, it's a little on the nose, but all right. But yeah, that's my take on Astral Chain. It's funny because when I think about Wonderful 101, which is not necessarily the same thing, but it is kind of a twin stick platinum-ish action game. I think I liked that a lot, but I had a friend who played it recently and was like, man, I hated how it barely let you play the game or do the combat sections. And I'm like, that's so weird because I think the same about Astral Chain. But there's my take.
I enjoyed my ride with it. It's not a great game, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I played it till completion. But I was also kind of like, when can I start playing the next game, like Shin Megami Tensei 5? Because I can say right now that game is baller. So if you're on the fence on starting Shin Megami Tensei 5, go ahead and play it. Oh, I also beat Cuphead.
Oh, how was that?
It was,
congrats.
I don't know. It was like, okay, so here's the thing. With Astral Chain, it felt like a chore. And with Cuphead, it felt like a fun chore. So there's that. I actually kind of, out of the 3 games I beat, Returnal, Astral Chain, and Cuphead, I feel like I would most likely return to Returnal and Cuphead because there's something about it that makes it enjoyable. Unlike Astral Chain.
Did you play a one-person mode or with somebody else?
No, I did it by myself. Because I was alone in my room for 10 whole days.
I see.
Yeah, a lot of that. But, I mean, my brothers had it and they didn't really care, so I could have played with them, but they were at work. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to play all by myself. And I did it. I freaking did it. And I'm ready for the DLC. I'm ready to play more Cuphead. I might even just like play it just for kicks because it's such a nice looking game. And it's really good to, like, the controls are nice. The gameplay is awesome. And I'm like, an indie team made this? They're so cool. And then I like watched their, developer interview. And I'm like, how can 2 guys just do this? And then I was watching their video and like, no offense, but power to them. They seemed kind of weird. So I'm like, okay.
Wow. Can't believe you just played a really good game and immediately decided to start bashing on them.
I don't mean to bash them. Like, a lot of my friends are very talented, but also have like the same vibes, like just strange,
Okay.
Can't say I do, but
okay. Well, it just reminded me of my talented friends, and they are talented, but with that talent comes a little bit of weirdness. So, hey, weird's good. I'm into weird.
Guess you gotta be a little bit weird to achieve great things.
Exactly. No, they needed that weirdness to make a kick-ass game. So, good job, Studio MDHR.
Congrats on being weird.
Proud of you guys. Anyways, Des, did you already talk about your life?
No, he doesn't. I want him to tell me what he thought about Fullmetal Alchemist. Yesterday we were on recording. He was like, "Oh, I finished Fullmetal Alchemist," and I was like, "Well, how did you like it?" And he's like, "I'm not gonna tell you. I'm waiting for book club." And I'm like,
"Oh, okay."
I was like, "Sure, keep your peace."
And now he's not gonna say it.
Let's go. So,
go. Yeah, shoot.
I finished Furude Alchemist Brozahudo, and no, that is not an X-Taku reference. I used to say that way before he made it popular, so shut the fuck up. So, ever since I got into anime, I've been hearing about this.
Oh my god, he's gonna be like, it's okay.
I've been hearing about this anime, the undefeated Furude Alchemist Brozahudo. That's been
so annoying.
Number one on my anime list for like since the beginning of time. It's like everybody refers back to it. It's like the greatest anime of all time. It like birthed me. It was like, I love this anime. And so I, a baby anime fan, was like, I'm not gonna watch this now. Like that everything else I watch is gonna pale in comparison. So I'm just gonna save that for later. And eventually that just became an excuse to not start this fucking 64 episode long anime.
It's not even long. That's very, very short. There's lots of anime longer than that.
Shut up, Mushroom. No, there's like 5 anime with more episodes than that.
Not true. I can name you 5 more after that one.
Mushroom finds out about jokes. Anyway, so I started watching it. I came in expecting it to be overhyped, of course, right? So I did not expect it to be as great as everybody told me about it. So then I watched it, and yeah, it's pretty mid. I'm sorry, Mushroom. I know you love it.
Mid? Oh no.
It's mid as fuck.
I don't think it's like mid. I don't understand why you would think it's like, I think it's good. It's not like amazing, but like it's just like it's standardly good. I personally at least think that.
As someone who really fucking doesn't like modern choreographies, like at least the popular, like Jujutsu Kaisen has horrible choreographies. I think the choreography of the fights in Fullmetal Alchemist, they're really good. But like everything else, maybe it was good at the time, but compared to like the anime standards now, like the OST.
What? You don't like the OST? The OST is so good.
No, like the opening and endings are fucking balling, but the OST.
but like the da 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 da, like as in like when. Like, in the very end, when it happens, and it's, like, and the whole world rumbles, you're like, oh my god. I don't know. It was always really effective to me. Like, I think that OST is done really well. I mean, maybe there's not that many varieties you can think of. Like, I say, like, one of the best OSTs out there are, by, who the fuck is that hack dude? Sawano. Like, Sawano's OST is amazing. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, but Sawano wouldn't fit Fullmetal Alchemist.
No, but, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, I feel like a lot of people got really used to listening to Sawano's pieces. I'm just saying that.
It's just... Okay, Mushroom, I'll explain to you what I mean by that. The songs feel empty. There's just, like, one melody in the songs. And it's something that you find a lot in... Turning off the Millennium anime and, like, early 10s anime. The melodies are really simple, and it's just... I'm used to more complex melodies now in anime. It's just
it's so fucking stupid.
My tastes are so complex.
That is so dumb. I think the OST is so good.
I have refined tastes, Mushroom. You do not understand.
No, Des.
This lowbrow anime, like, Full Metal.
That is ridiculous. Also, I mean, I'm utterly offended. So like you didn't even like, what did you not like the last part? Like I feel like
okay.
All of the characters are really well done. Like the whole plot, like the whole, like literally last 20 episodes are just 2 days of really extremely good action and very good build up. Like I don't understand what's not to like about it.
Okay.
Like at least I wouldn't have put it at a mid. I would have be like, oh, it's overhyped, but like it's not as good as everybody said it is. But like at least it's good. Like I wouldn't have been like, it's okay, nothing to write home about.
No, okay. I don't want to make the whole episode about this, so I'll just say I'll just say one thing that really surprised me about it, and then I'll tell you my biggest gripe about it. Okay? So one thing that I found really cool is the CG. For some fucking reason, the CG was amazing. It was like, what? Modern CG looks horrible. What were they smoking during this time? And the thing I have the biggest gripe about it is how plot convenient so many of the things are.
What? How dare you say that? Okay, give me an example. Fuck you. That is like so fucked up to say.
Without getting into spoilers, there's like this item, this fucking all-powerful item that fucking...
Oh, you mean like the dude hold on to the item and he just never told anybody about it?
Okay, let me explain it to the audience.
Ugh,
so this fucker...
fuck you.
This fucker gets possession of the most powerful item in existence, keeps it in his pocket, and then just forgets about it for 20 episodes, even though it trivializes any hardship the party went through. Also, a whole season passed in universe. So you mean to tell me he didn't change clothes for a season? Like, what the fuck? That's what I mean. There's so many examples of this that just... Like, how is this show a 10 out of 10?
That is so stupid. I hate you so much for it.
Marked off the bingo card.
Yeah, so you don't even counter my argument, and then you call
no,
me...
because, no, Des, I'm going to explain it to you. The thing is like, I think that doesn't bother me because, like, the thing is like, there's a lot of specific points. While I like the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood version, I do agree there's some stuff that it's just never really explained really well in the anime to make people be like, oh, this is annoying or anything. Like, I always chalked up to that scene of being like a thing that this guy like didn't never realize how, like, they basically kept it and then didn't really want to give it to anybody because it's like a very specific item that basically changes the tide of everything. And throughout the whole time, they talked about how they didn't want to fucking use it anyway. And, like, so, like, he just kept it. So, like, that was the type of thing. I've never been like, oh, well, like, I guess this random ass dude just didn't want him to use it. I guess, like, it just invalidates everything. I just think, like, there's so much more, like, nuances in every single time this item is brought up. Like, I just think it's pretty funny, like, that, like, you know, like, Edward did this really fucked up thing to heal himself, and then 2 minutes later, the dudes found the fucking, like, found the thing that could have helped him. But, like, I also just think, like, even in that scenario, I wouldn't, like, it's a good character moment that, like, he never got to use it because he wouldn't had, like, you know, like, I think that's one of the reasons why I really like that scene, because there's a fundamental difference between Edward and Al that makes them very different, because one of them would have used it and then one of them wouldn't had, like, you know, because
Mushroom,
that's like,
we're getting too in depth, Mushroom. This...
No, I mean, you can cut this all out. I just mean, like, I don't really understand why you would think, like, that is what is that thing called? Like, that is convenient because, like, of course, like, maybe, like, oh, you're like, oh, this is plot convenient. This dude just never, like gave it to him. But, like, I feel like it's, like, a really cool turning point. Like, I don't understand what you're like, aha, yes, I caught the writer into, like, writing themselves out of a corner. It's like, no, it's just, like, a really cool moment. Like, that's a very antagonistic way of, like, being like, yes, the writer tricked me.
No, okay. After the episode, I'll explain you. I'll give you a counter argument to your counter argument. How's that?
That's so fucking stupid. Also, I cannot believe you didn't like the revolution part. Like, it's like the coup part is such a good part and well written part of the story. It is the most realistic way of writing about, like, politics that I have, like, in an anime setting I have ever, like, seen, and, like, a realistic war setting, like that makes sense.
Mushroom, I'm sorry, but the only reason I didn't drop Fullmetal Alchemist was because I still had 20 episodes left, but I had already watched 30 episodes, so I wasn't dropping it there.
Me when I read Umineko.
You should have dropped it. I wish I had never had this conversation with you. I also don't understand it because you also didn't like Bakuno. So you know what? I don't even like that is so absurd to me. Like, you didn't even understand what you were watching. So, like, you know what? I'm not gonna get too upset about this. We're literally like 20 minutes into this episode, and I don't need this in my life. Let's just talk about Umineko. Jesus Christ.
I think we should keep this in the final cut. It's a very we'll let the audience decide if Jess is wrong or right. You know?
No, neither me nor Mushroom actually explained our points in full depth, so I don't think that's fair.
No, fuck this. my seething madness.
Yes,
Jesus Christ.
I knew this was gonna happen. I knew Mushroom would get pissed.
Well, thanks for saving it for the recording, because it was a good move.
Imagine I told her about this yesterday. We would have missed all of this back and forth.
You would have, but you'd also be talking about it until like since the time you said that you didn't like it, until now. It would have been like over 24 hours of you being ranted at.
Like, Des, I just don't really understand. Like, I understand when you're like, oh, I go into these shows without prejudice, but like, personally, I still don't know how you can dislike Baccano. Like, makes like zero sense to me unless you weren't paying enough attention or didn't understand what's happening. Like, it is like insane to me. Most people walk out of Baccano either being like, oh, that was kind of difficult, but I understand why people liked it, or like, wow, that was the best fucking piece of media I've ever seen in my life. Like, to walk out and not liking it just means fundamental lack of understanding. Sorry, like all this conversation just makes me think about like all the other times we talked about anime, because I was like, there's anime that I think like people could think is mid. Like, I understand if somebody walked out of Paranoia Agent and thought, wow, that was kind of a hack piece, like what the fuck was that about? Or like even walked out of Siri Explain Lane and being like, wow, that was a waste of my fucking time, like I didn't understand anything. Like, people could keep like people could keep like jacking about how they fucking think this is the best piece of media, but like, would you really call it a best piece of media if like 90% of the people can't understand it when they watch it and could only understand it through a video essay? Like, I understand all of that. Like, I guess you can pick your
Okay, Mushroom, I'll tell you very shortly what my stance on anime is. Have you watched Guilty Crown?
Yes.
Okay, so I look for different things in anime because my tastes are refined, and I rated Guilty Crown above Full Metal Alchemist, and that's that is my hot take on anime. She fell silent. I won.
Jeez.
I won the argument. I killed her with cringe.
Yeah, I can feel it.
I can't even fucking understand. Okay. So like,
I killed her with a back
I
take.
don't even fucking like. How the fuck could you even say that? Like, that is. Have you watched Honor Hero? Okay, that means no. Okay, great, whatever. Guilty Crown is like. If like Guilty Crown is basically the pre-Adonai Zero, like as in like I don't even understand like the only good episodes of Guilty Crown, like shh. Oh, shut up. The only good episode of the only good episode of Guilty Crown is the fucking he turns into baby Hitler mode. It's episode 617 up to episode 19. That's the best episodes. The show is fucking garbage. If you like, I hope you go to anime hell. Like it's fine. Like whatever. This conversation is so infuriating that made me remember that like people are real people and they have horribly stupid opinions that I usually try not to listen to, so I can like enjoy their company. But yes, thank you, Des. Let's move on.
Damn. I mean, you're seething. I can feel it. My computer got all hot ever since you started going off about this, but...
I mean, I understand not to think Fullmetal Alchemist is that great, but, like, I don't understand why you would, like, pithily think, like, Guilty Crown is better than, like, that comes off as just, like, a very childish thing and petty thing to say, and not being very charitable to the piece that you're watching. Like,
damn.
Like, that's my personal take.
No offense, but full offense.
Well, one day we'll have the anime discussion episode.
If we had anime discussion episodes, then we will just be here forever. That would just basically take up 90% of our schedules. Like, oh god. I will never. Des, you know what? I will never recommend you anime ever again. So you can just go find it on yourself to go watch it. So that I don't have to feel responsible for ruining another piece of media I like. That's just my personal take. I have decided.
All right.
Okay. So Umineko now, like 25 minutes in.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do this for real.
Yay! I'm sorry, Mushroom.
That's right. Anime Ragnarok, and now we have to make up, and now we can talk about Umineko, I guess.
Yes.
Stupid ass visual novel, but people. Well, okay. So what happened previously was that 6 people died before everybody's eyes in the dining room. These bunny people popped off their heads, and now the surviving adults in the dining hall find themselves inside some sort of holding cell, apparently somewhere on the island, save for Goda and Kumasawa, who have been ordered to round up the children from the guest house. They're all trying to figure out how they got there in the first place. They just kind of like woke up and they were in there. Maybe they fell through some sort of trap door and they bumped their heads around. That's why everything's so foggy to them. And not even Shannon or Cannon know where this place is, which is like, you know, so as people who've been on this island for, it's kind of weird that they never realized that there was like this secret hiding spot, presumably on the island.
Yeah.
And they can't really tell how they got there in the first place. Nanjo pipes up and he says, "Oh, I'm a doctor. Maybe we should call the amber lamps for the people who got their faces blown off." And Kirie's like,
yes,
sir?
Thank you, Nanjo. Very helpful.
Yeah, right. And then Kraus rallies everybody, all the prisoners in this holding cell, that Kinzo's went cuckoo. And they're in the bone zone now, everyone. But they hope the kids are fine because their spouses just died in front of them and the kids are like kind of sitting ducks right now. So the captives are seeking a way out. Kyrie pipes up and notices how it's likely that they were all actually drugged and brought into the holding cell as opposed to like some weird secret trapdoor. And inside the cell, Shannon finds that there's a connected landline within the prison cell, which is super convenient. I mean, obviously they're suspicious of the existence of like a convenient phone inside a cell where they're being kidnapped. But turns out that they can't call the police. It's like an internal line. So they're like, okay, great. We knew that would happen. So Kyrie steps back and evaluates the situation now that she realizes that they're cut off from the outside world and how things got really weird when those bunny girls popped up, split everybody's heads in half with the magic golden arrow. And she tries to come up with some sort of practical explanation for it, but you can't really do that. She's like, maybe he used like CGI or like a drone or something, even though this is the 80s. She's like, maybe they...
Oh my god, yeah.
They had like a tiny plane that made people's heads explode. Who knows?
The stupidest idea.
Yep. There was like that cheese cutting floss that was like flying through the room so fast that it cut people's heads in half. Who knows? But she can't really suss it out. Kraus figures that the landline is, again, only internal, even though Kyrie already figured that out. And they managed to call up the guest house and talk to Goda and the kids. Jessica asks if, mom and dad, like he and her mom are okay. And Kraus is like, she is aight, even though her head's like split the fuck open in the dining hall. He's like, I don't want to freak her out. Let's just lie, okay? And they update the kids on the whole murder situation business and Kinzo being crazy, and they tell them to, stay holed up in the guest house because he's armed and dangerous and he has friends. They also confirm that everybody is either inside this holding cell somewhere on the islands or in the guest house. And the guest house inhabitants are all barricading the doors. They acknowledge Kinzo is on his loony shit. And according to Goda and Kumasawa, there are potentially armed accomplices, aka the bunny girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They agree to stay safe and try not to die in vain, but they're also worried that the hostages in the mansion are also going to be used as sacrifices. But they also don't know exactly where they are, so even if they wanted to like run out and save them, it would be what's the term, like a goose chase or something like that. It wouldn't be a fruitful search.
Yeah, wild goose chase.
Yes, exactly. And Jessica doesn't trust her dad. She asks Kumasawa if Natsuhi's really dead, and Kumasawa's like, yeah, she's dead, bitch. Goda and Kumasawa tell them about the massacre, but they can't really explain, like, what we previously just read, right? Like, something crazy like bunny girls came out and shot your mom's fucking head off. Like, would you believe them? I don't.
Yeah, how do you explain that to someone?
Right, so they don't actually like say it. They just say like Courage the Cowardly Dog style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's understandable. Like how?
Yeah, it's shocking. It's shocking for sure. But they also managed to like explain that the half smashed head situation, how like you could tell the dead people were dead and that they were actually the people who died. And Jessica's like, thanks for killing my hope that my mom's alive, but at least I know she's dead for real. Whatever, thanks Kumasawa.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird. Everybody's posted up inside the guest house with their makeshift weapons, and Maria doesn't give a fuck, and she's like, can I just watch TV instead? And they tell her no, like, this is life or death, girl. What's going on in your head? Anyways, we cut back to the people who are in the cell, and they're all talking really weird, like, haha, we are like captured chess pieces in the game. Do you not agree? Chess piece Nanjo. Haha, well, I do as well. Chess piece Kyrie and chess piece Kraus. Everybody, like, up until this point, the conversation is oddly robotic. Like, it's very, if Ryukishi was having a conversation with himself in his head, this is what it would sound like.
What? Wait, I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Lorenzo.
All the way the dialogue in this, like, portion of the story just sounds really stilted, like somebody's trying to lay out all their points as opposed to like having a natural conversation. Because I feel like, yeah, it does happen where he goes on or Ryukishi writes just like hours long conversations to explain like Hempel's Raven or the Devil's Paradox. What's it called? The Devil's Paradox?
Devil's Proof.
The Devil's Proof.
Devil's Proof. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. But yeah. So, you know, there's those conversations, and then there's these conversations where everybody like in the cell and like everybody over the phone between the people in the cell and the guest house, it just feels fake. Like the way they're talking is very stilted, but in a way where it's like somebody's trying to explicitly write out all their main points.
Well, I think that could be because like they had the miracle of finding this phone, right? They don't know when Kinzo will come back, so they're trying to relay all of this information to their loved ones as fast as they can because they don't know when Kinzo's gonna pop up.
I guess. Okay.
They don't know if they're gonna have another chance to relay this information to them. So I interpreted that as being the reason why the dialogue is so expository. Is expository a word?
Yeah. So, no, that's exactly what I was trying to get at. Like the dialogue is extremely like
even do you think the dialogue is extremely exposition-y when they're not talking? Like even when they're not talking on the phone, when they're just talking to each other? Is that what you're trying to say, or just like specifically when they're talking on the phone?
I think it's both, like just the narration and like the dialogue between them. Like the one part where they're like, and then they confirmed that everybody was in the other room. It was like that line made it really sound like the story is a riddle.
Interesting.
Huh.
Well, to me, because I was just reading the lines and then I was reading the way how people talked. Like everybody in the prison cell, they were obviously trying to figure out what was going on, but the way it was being asked, like the way they were talking to each other was sort of like, if somebody was reading this, we need to outline every single possible thought that they could have to explain this situation.
Really?
Interesting.
I did not catch on that. That it did not feel that way to me. I mean,
that's my interpretation. That's my opinion. But no, yeah. No, I'm referencing a Vine because I always think about Vines, but
I know.
Is that it's my opinion, like the lady's face? Okay.
Yeah, with the distorted face.
Yes.
Well, anyways, everybody's in the prison cell. They're all being really weird. Shannon and Cannon are using their magic hearing abilities to sense the magical Baragoats. And they're talking to each other. They're like, isn't it weird that neither of us have died yet? Do you think we'll get to go to the Golden Land again? And Shannon tells Cannon, or laughs at his face. He's like, haha, Cannon, you didn't make it last time. The Golden Land is cocktick ballin'. I've been there once. My uncle works at the Golden Land. The captives are met with Kinzo, Renove, Virgilia, Gap. On the other side of the prison cell, they're looking at their captives held inside this cage. And they tell them that they're in the basement of Kuadorian. And they confirm that Kinzo had a whole ass love shack somewhere else on the island just for his lover Beatrice.
Yeah, I think it's really funny because like even the game makes fun of itself to say like, oh, this is Kinzo's like sex dungeon, like
kinky ass sex dungeon, and Kiria is like, ooh, you're a kinky fucker, man.
I'm pretty sure like Kiria makes fun of it and says, oh, this is the sex dungeon.
And she's like, this is a little bit much for me.
No,
because it is kind of weird.
No. I feel like Kiria is into the sex dungeon shit. She would put.
Oh yeah.
But she would be the one.
she-
She would be the one imprisoning Rudolph, not the other way around.
Yeah, 100%. No. I mean by like she's definitely not on the receiving end of the sex dungeon. That's what I mean.
She immediately put on a strap on when she ended up in this dungeon. So.
Oh, 100%.
But Kinzo says some weird incel-y shit like, true love is keeping a woman prisoner in your sex dungeon. Anyways, you're all being sacrificed and your kids are going to fight to the death. Watch this. So he orders the parents to call the guest house with the internal line and gives the kids a challenge to compete for the headship. We cut back to the future in 1998. Enji is interrogating Nanjo's son at the clinic in Nijima. The son, I think he has a name, but I didn't catch it. So we'll just call him the son.
The son,
he also has a fun, he also has a sprite, which is pretty surprising.
the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. So the son basically tells Angie that he has nothing to tell her and that the whole Rokenjima incident ruined Nanjo's ass and hole. And Angie tells him, you think? My family died, man.
She's like, you think like media fucking hound on you? Like you're talking to me who like had my whole fucking family died and had my whole life ruined. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
when
like
I was 6. So Nanjo's son loses the pity contest and says that Nanjo and Kinzo were longtime chess boyfriends, and he gives her all the deets. And they just mentioned that they were so close that Nanjo got to be there on the island for the big family conference. But maybe it was because Kinzo was at death's door and he needed like an on-site physician. Maybe. Angie asks to see if there are any medical records of Kinzo. Okay, Hippocratic Oath or HIPAA laws. But surprisingly, there aren't any. Kind of weird.
Don't they say that? They say that maybe they were on the island, right? Because Kinzo was there, so
Right. It would be easier access. But yeah, all of his medical records aren't even at the clinic. Like no copies, no anything. But there was one weird thing that did happen to Nanjo's son that he brings up. It's that after the incident and Nanjo was officially declared dead, the son got an anonymous letter in the mail, similar to the witch letters that the people on Rokenjima would receive. But they don't know that, but we know that because it uses the same image as it did within the story or throughout the story.
Yeah.
Up until this
it's
point.
really creepy.
Yeah.
When I was reading this for the first time, it's like I was reading the reasoning that NJ was doing. It kind of made sense, but at the same time, it was creepy all the same.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's like very ominous. So they reveal what's inside the letter. It's a bank card with the code 07151129. I wonder where we've seen that, right? Which led to a bank box that he visited and he could apparently access, and it had hella money, but he was very suspicious of it and it was like straight up cash. So he assumed that it was like dirty money and did not touch it at all. He was like, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that.
Just to be sure,
Yeah.
the place we've seen it before was in EP3, right? At the end, written on the door to the parlor where George and Shannon were dead, right?
Yes, correct.
Right.
Okay.
That was written on the door.
They still don't know what it means. They're like, that's weird. Maybe it's a birthday, but who knows? Or I think Battler said it was
It's his birthday. One of those. Yeah, half of the numbers are a birthday, and it's his.
Yeah, weird, right? But Angie compares the writing on the envelope/letter with Maria's diary and realizes that it's Beatrice's handwriting. What?
Yeah, where
Crazy.
did Angie pick up this skill to just cross-reference handwriting?
I know, right? She's like a full-on investigator.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine there's surprising amount of Beatrice's handwriting in Maria's notebook, so she maybe be like, "Oh, that A looks like this A" or something.
Right.
You know?
I mean,
this is also like the only thing she ever reads, so she's like, if she sees handwriting like that in public, like she'll know.
Yeah, she'll know.
she's oversensitized to it.
Her brain is wired to this frequency.
Exactly. She goes on to further her investigation. Kumasawa's family received the same letter in the mail as well, and they didn't even open it because it was really creepy. They forgot about it. And then Angie suddenly remembers that she also received a similar envelope 12 years prior when she was 6 years old. It was kind of a repressed memory because, your family just died.
Yeah, and you're constantly facing abuse from Eva. Like, why would you have possibly remembered such weird detail?
And you're also 6.
Yeah, you're also
exactly.
6. Yeah, could you even remember anything when you happened when you were 6? Nothing.
I don't.
I do.
But you do? What?
I have some memories. I have memory of eating a chocolate that was really good. I was like, wow, thanks for buying it for me, Mom.
What the
It's the best chocolate you've ever had in your life, and no chocolate you've had ever since has reached that level of 6-year-old chocolate.
Yeah.
That's incredibly funny.
It was a Kinder Delice. So good.
We don't even have. Well, I think we do have them now, but everybody.
I think we do have them now.
But I think they like changed the chocolate or whatever because it tastes like shit.
What?
So congrats, Jess. You peaked at 6 years old.
It tastes like shit there? No way.
No. It's Kinder Buenos for the longest time doesn't have it in America because American children are too stupid and they will swallow the fucking.
No,
candy.
that's the egg. I'm not talking about the egg. I'm talking about Delice. There's different kind of Kinders. Like there's Delice, there's Bueno.
Yeah.
What?
I like Kinder Buenos.
I think we have those now, but before we didn't.
Yeah.
Especially when I was 6. So, but there was on that gamer podcast, shout out to Please Stop Talking podcast. One of them talked about how their earliest memory was he stuck a fork in an electrical outlet.
Oh my God.
And like all of his memories start from there. So he believes he factory reset himself by getting electrocuted.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm like,
Wait, did you end up getting to that episode I was talking about yet or no?
oh, H Bomber guy's been on a few episodes. They're really entertaining, but I think the sidebar, the really interesting part is that he talked about something like genuinely traumatic that they could not air it, and they were like explaining, yeah, we took a break and then it was such a bummer story and he hadn't fully emotionally processed it that he came back and he said, guys, I think that was the first time I ever talked about that story. Like my hands were shaking as I made that coffee during the break. I don't think we should air this. So I'm like, what?
What was it? So they never aired the story. Oh, that's crazy.
They didn't. They just talked about how fucked up it was, which is like surprising coning what they talk about on the show. So,
if you can, could you find me that episode? I just want to hear that conversation. But you heard that the episode where they did where H-Bomb slide off the fucking back wall?
Yeah. And he made a huge scab in his sleep and the sheets connected or
it's
attached to his body.
He was glued by blood to the bed.
You know, that's like an Urban Dictionary entry. Something about like Supermaning someone, but it's not blood that's dried on your back. It's cum and the sheets come off your back and it looks like a cape like Superman.
Oh my God. But it's honestly, that's one of the most fucking wild story. It's such a good way he told it because everybody there was just shook and they're just like, what? How do we're supposed to react to that story? Like that's so fucked up.
I know, right? And then you can only imagine how like messed up the unaired stories are.
Yeah.
So, because there are more than one, but for his, it sounded like it was genuinely traumatic. But I digress. You know what's more traumatic? You know who's like suffered more pain than that? Angie Umineko.
Thank you.
Come on.
Wow, that was an amazing hard segue back.
I mean, she's complaining to all the other victims of, the tragedy, and she's like, well, you're not as sad as me, right? So anyway, she remembers that she received a letter in the mail 12 years ago when her family was confirmed dead. Ushiramiya family not confirmed for Smash. But she was pissed when she received the letter or like thought about the letter. And she was assuming Beatrice was mocking the surviving relatives with consolation prize money. And because they all received those envelopes, it kind of further confirms sort of that this is evidence of a premeditated incident. Plus, the way that it was sent was really indirect and uncertain. So whoever sent it really believed in miracles and the post office, which is very Beatrice core.
Yeah,
I must.
So
say.
Essentially, the conclusion Angie comes to, just to catch up people who may not remember, is that this was all of these letters were sent at least like about 2 days before the incident to somewhere else, to an address that does not exist, in the name of the person the letters were actually addressed to, because by not finding the address, the post service would resend the letters to the sender. So that would be how this person would get the letters to who they wanted to.
And fortunately, all of them somehow got the letter. So weird, right? Angie's still interrogating Kumasawa's family at her family's house. And she learns that Kumasawa herself attempted to solve the epitaph riddle. There's a picture of a door somewhere on the island saying something about the door being the entrance to the Golden Land and having a 1 out of quadrillion chance of being opened. And since apparently solving it meant that you could win the gold, obviously Kumasawa went for it. And Angie brings up the point that the epitaph could be read as a creepy murder ritual or a really weird riddle, which doesn't make much sense in English. So, I mean, good luck trying to figure it out, right? We've talked about that already.
We talked about it so many times at this point.
But in the end, nobody could really solve it, like, as far as Angie knows, because, like, her family's gone. Long story short, Beatrice had a ton of gold and somehow gave the surviving relatives of the Rokenjima incident victims hella money.
Yeah, Mushroom, I have a question.
Sure.
Does Kumasawa-san has a shirt with something written on it? What does it say?
What do you think it says?
What?
What do you think it says?
I don't know.
Big boobs.
Mackerel supremacy?
It just says mackerel.
Wow.
Oh, mackerel? Oh, okay, just kidding. Oh, that's
How
cute.
did you know that from memory? Did you also look it up?
No, I just know it. It's also just a mackerel. Like, it's just the word mackerel. It's just funny. But I also just remember that because it's just a funny detail. That, why would this man be wearing a mackerel shirt? They just really like mackerels.
Okay.
I would not be caught dead in public wearing a shirt that said straight up fish on my chest.
I guess it runs in the family.
It does rest in the family.
Yeah. Funny joke, am I right?
Mackerel equals funny. Hello, I'm Kumasawa.
Yeah.
But there's also another thing that I was gonna mention here, which is that Angie looks at this letter and she's like thinking about it, and she's also talking in the border world, like the kind of like the commenting with Sakataro and Mammon, and they start talking about, they're like, oh, don't you think this is like very Beatrice for her to do though? Like, Beatrice would like do stuff like this. Like she would basically prank, and she would only do things that are risky instead of being like a for sure thing, because that's how, like, the power of magic. And it could have been really possible that they would have gotten the letter early, like even before the incident on the island
happened.
Yeah, the incident on the island
Even
happened.
before they even left for the island.
Yeah, exactly. But it just happens that it wasn't processed and everybody got it after the incident. So like Beatrice is playing some like long cons here just for like this to all work out or not work out. So that's a really interesting detail to mention.
Exactly.
The witch is Fico.
Right. So it seems pretty likely that whoever's orchestrating this whole, like, first there's an incident that happened, and now that everybody's like gotten this consolation prize money, it seems pretty likely that the same person's behind all of it, aka Beatrice. Crazy. So now we find ourselves with Angie at the ferry boat guy, Kawabata. He would like normally shuttle the family from Nijima to Rokenjima. So Angie's like just questioning him, like, hey, or not questioning him. She's requesting that he brings her to Rokenjima. And she's like, haha, wouldn't it have been cool if you saved my family? And he says, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll atone for it by not taking your wad of cash payment, and I'll just take you to the island for free.
You're making this whole exchange sound so cold when it was so wholesome, actually.
Okay, well, he was like, I'm so sorry. I'll give you a freebie. You got a dead family. That's enough. I
like it though. Like I didn't remember a whole lot from Kawabata. I didn't remember him being so nice to Angie. He says like, yeah, I too have been like, I guess not shackled, but like low-key shackled by the fact that I did not bring these people back. So by taking you to the island and actually bringing you back, it's like this chapter of my life is finally closing.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna mention this because Dubs and I talked a lot about this. Like Dub read this part. He read this part twice because throughout him reading this, he got really kind of like sidetracked, and then he basically took like a humongous break. So when he got back to this part, he ended up rereading this part. So I think like in the beginning, he thought like Kawabata was kind of sus, but like he said the second time he read it, he actually found him less sus because throughout the whole conversation, you can actually tell that Kawabata just feels extremely bad about this whole situation, and like the whole time he's talking to like AJ, he's just trying to tell her to not to kill herself, like like
yeah, for sure.
He straight up tells her, "You know what I'm talking about, right? I want to bring you back."
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. And it's not like, oh, you know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna kill you when you get to the island. It's like as in like he's trying to tell her like, like I have always like cared for your take care of your family, and like I have brought them there and back, and like for me to be the person to have never seen them again, like I also have unfinished business of myself, and I think anybody who's lock eyes with Angie knows this girl is ready to it's 1 feet in the grave already. So I really I thought this was a really good part.
Me too.
Right.
Unexpected.
So because he's written.
Yeah.
Unexpected what?
I was gonna say unexpected nice moment.
Yeah. It's very heartwarming. So he's so guilt-ridden that he wants to be able to bring, like you guys said, an Ashura-miya family member back from the island safely this time. So Angie comes to terms that she definitely has thought about planning to die at Rokunjima, especially with Kirie's family on her trail. And before she leaves the Kawabata's shop, she notices something weird on the shelf that only she and her magical familiars can recognize. Kawabata and Amakusa have no idea what she's losing her shit about, but apparently solidifies her resolve to visit Rokunjima to end things for once and for all, and that this is what real magic's all about. So she just loses her shit. She sees something, but we don't know what it is. Crazy.
Unless you're Des and you're playing this game in a broken ratio, and then you will know what it is.
Yeah, unless you're me and you somehow have the one copy of Umineko that has a different background CG for some reason.
Or no, the ratio is cut wrong, and then you got to see it.
Yeah, I think
it's like cropped out.
Because in most versions it's cropped out, but in Des's version it wasn't.
So I actually it's interesting that the background does have that detail of actually having what Angie actually saw. But at the same time, it's just like, what?
Wait, I think the Steam version cropped it out, because I definitely did not see that when I played the game.
Yeah, the Steam version cropped it out. Like, also, a lot of version cropped it out. That's just ran a janked version where they kept it in.
Or maybe it was, like, put in there, like, Wikipedia article style, like, this is what you really saw. Oh, but I looked at the original photo backgrounds thing. I didn't see anything that looked like there would have been.
Well, no, I mean the original, of course, doesn't, because the original is just a fucking photograph of somebody's fucking like storage room. But
Right.
like,
I guess it was like completely implied.
the drawn version, of course, has more intentionality in it. That's what I meant.
Right. Okay.
I actually don't know which version I prefer, because it was a nice experience figuring it out at the same time as Angie by looking at the background. So I actually don't know which experience I prefer, with or without the crowd background.
I feel like a lot of people, if you weren't really thinking that hard about it, actually would never be able to arrive at the fact of what she looked like, what she saw, because that's just one mystery out of a chain of mysteries, and it's not like Umineko, the game, ever like outrightly tells you. So like it actually becomes like one of those things that like you just never get to know, which is kind of funny. Like if you weren't like paying.
It became one of those things, Serial Experiments Lane style, where I had to watch a YouTube essay explaining what happened. So in turn, Umineko is one of those kind of shitty.
Yeah. I think it's like kind of it's funny that it's just never explained. It's a whole never really. It's really just one of those like mysteries that like either you arrive at it and you read it somewhere, or you just don't, it's get lost in the other mysteries of Umineko.
Or you figure it out by yourself, which is also really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Well, when I figured it out, we'll talk about it later in the spoiler section. But back on Rokunjima, the cousins are in the guest house, and they receive instructions through the phone from the prison cell hostages and Kinzo, that Kinzo's going to make all of the kids solve his riddles 3, I guess, and to sequester Goda and Kumasawa in the garden storehouse because they're going to get in the way. Nanjo tries to smooth talk his way out of the prison cell so he can kiss Kinzo on the lips, but Kinzo's not having any of that right now. And the familiars outside the cage, Renove, Gap, Virgilia, they comment on Shannon and Cannon being obedient and staying inside the cage, despite them having the power to blast a hole in it and just straight up leave. But as they reiterate countless times before, they're powerless furniture. Cannon is really pessimistic with the take that he and Shannon are useless, but Shannon's on the opposite end of the spectrum where she's like, but we'll be able to be used someday, like tools. That's what furniture's all about, right? Kinzo summons the Chiesters, yet again, who are kind of bummed that one of them straight up died at some point. I wonder when. And they're on a mission to make sure that Goda and Kumasawa are properly locked up inside the storehouse. Renove and Gap are assigned to test the kids on their tasks, and Virgilia and the Barrow Goats keep watch over the prisoners. Kyrie is low-key baffled by the character count at this point, and so am I, because who the hell are these people? George locks Kumasawa and Goda in the storehouse, Saw style. He says, game over, Kumasawa and Goda, and just slams the door on them, locks them inside, but also gives them a key through a tiny window that they can only fit an arm through.
I cannot fucking believe I forgot to read a segment again. Am I? Oh my god.
Oh, did I go too far?
No.
I ended at the the end is coming up really soon.
Okay.
So like I didn't go too far ahead. So yeah, George locks Kumasawa and Goda inside the storehouse. They hand them the sole key to the storehouse through a window.
So then nobody else could break into their storehouse. Yeah.
Right.
Wait, can you remind me why George does that? Because I don't remember, and just hearing that sounds stupid as fuck.
Well, the idea is that they want to keep, because first thing is the Kingzo told them that they have to be locked up. So like because they cannot interview.
They have to be alone.
Like they have to be like away from the children, so they can't help the children. And then so they decided that they would lock them up. I forgot it was specifically speaking that they had to lock them up in the shed. I think that's also a order from Kingzo. So instead because they didn't want other people to go into the shed, they gave the only shed key back to them through the window. So if they wanted to be if they want to get let out, they will have somebody will have to go up to the window and they have to unlock the window from the inside to give the key to the outside person, and then they can unlock it. So they thought that was the safest.
Right, exactly.
Makes sense.
So all the kids freak out about the situation because, their parents are held hostage. They got really weird messages through the phone that they're going to be tested and also to lock away the adults so that they're all alone. Except Maria, who's being a little weirdo about everything. She's like, okay, cool. I mean, we're going to get to go to the Golden Land soon. I don't care. They go back to the phone to talk to Kyrie, and she tells them that they're going to be challenged in order, going from Jessica, George, Battler, and then finally Maria. And they'll be called to leave the room one at a time to a designated location. And Battler reckons that this is a life or death situation based off of the way Kyrie is saying that the fate of the family rests in your hands. And Battler says he'll punch Kinzo through the phone. And everybody's like, rallying with the kids like, yeah, Kinzo's like a crazy fucker. We gotta give him his comeuppance. So Jessica's the first to go. She's ordered to go to her own room in the mansion. She steels herself for this challenge. She's telling herself, I gotta be strong for mom and dad. They better not be dead. That'd be so fucked up. But if worse comes to worse, I'll run back to the guest house like a sissy, which is George's idea, of course, retreat like a coward. And then George goes like, I don't know, anime protagonist mode, and he's gonna be like, I'm gonna be the one who beat Kinzo's ass first. I'm so badass, but...
And they all just talk about how they want to beat Kingzo's ass first.
Right. So then there's like there's another weird exposition sort of conversation where it becomes like very cliche anime like final stands sort of talk, I felt. So everybody's acting really weirdly out of character. And finally, Shannon is the next one to relay the info through the phone that George needs to get ready for his personal challenge. And that is where the summary ends.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything to say before we cut to spoilers?
I just think it's nice that after 4 episodes, Jessica finally gets an outlet for her anger, because like through all of the previous 3 episodes, people get murdered. Jessica's like, I'll fucking kill that murderer. When I see him, I'm gonna fucking kill that murderer. I hate him so much. And then finally she has like an opportunity to do it.
Right. Yeah, she's gonna tear ass. I mean, I think that means fart, but she's gonna whoop ass.
She's gonna tear that ass into pieces.
She's gonna fart so hard inside the mansion. Anything else we need to bring up before we go into spoiler territory?
I mean,
Nope.
I think the setup is very fascinating. I think this is a very funny part. I don't know how would I possibly write the parallels, but like, I think everything that's on Ange's side is like really, really fascinating, and in the way it kind of mirror. I don't know if I'm supposed to be praising Ryukishi right now or being really annoyed that like it's just structured this way.
Oh, so you finally come to criticize EP4 structure, huh?
No.
What?
I said that before, that I said like I think EP4 structure is hard for a lot of like first time readers. I don't think like I think like if you did spend like 200 hours reading it, like how Dubs read. Okay, do you want to know something funny? When I was reading Stormlight Archive has like 4 fucking perspective, and the book is 1,000 pages long, which means that like it's also split into 5 parts, and sometimes like if you like a person's perspective, that person's perspective is not going to show up for the next 200 pages, which makes that like it made me always curious why Dubs didn't fucking bitch about how much he doesn't like EP4's like structure, because you know I feel like most people, if you read EP4, you would be like want to bitch about EP4 structure because you know your faves is not here for like 20 hours of reading. And then after reading Stormlight Archive, I understood, because like I would get to a part about Shalyn and Adeline, and I'm like, oh my god, this part is so great. And then you get to the next, like, and it says end of part 2, and then you look at part 3, and then it tells you in the very beginning of part 3 that like who's gonna be narrating the story, and you're like, what? The next of part 3, which is 200 pages, has none of my favorite characters, so you have to read a whole other part before you ever get to like re-continue this previous character story. So like I'm not sure like if it's because both Dubs and I have been whipped by stories like this, but like I don't really complain about things like that anymore. That's my personal take.
You are battle hardened into.
Yeah, exactly. I imagine like there is like a lot to criticize about it, but like I also don't really know how, like I could like even if I criticize it, I don't really know how would I have improved it. That's what my point is.
Fair.
I think this whole setup is really weird. It's like meanwhile like all of these like the adults in the dungeons are like getting ready to fight, and like you know like or are just getting ready in general, and then all the bunny girls are there, and Vigilia's there, like Renove's there. There's so many goats, like it's pretty wild. Like you know.
Yeah, for sure. Super confusing for a first time reader on top of the perspective changes. So I get what you're saying.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the spoiler-free part, listener.
Yes, if you have not read past this point in the story, what the hell are you doing here? Get out of my face. Wait until the next episode. In the meantime, See Cats Do Crimes, we're going to talk about spoiler territory, or delve into spoiler territory. So if you don't want to have your experience ruined, peace out.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, spoiler talk.
Spoilers.
Lots of thoughts, lots of feels.
Yes.
You guys want to start off?
Okay, so being stupid, I talked about this on the previous episode. I forgot to think about the mystery. So if you would let me, I would like to talk about the mystery now that I have finally started thinking about it.
Sure.
Stupid. So my theory on what actually happened on the dining hall is just a built up on top of what we discussed previous episode. So I think Sayo literally just went in there maybe showed like one ingot of gold or two just to prove that, yes, I got gold. Also, I got more. I can show you the rest of the gold if you want to. Anyway, I'm the head now. And yep, I solved the riddle, so I'm the head. And I want to test your children. So all of you are gonna do as I say in exchange for your portion of the gold. So obviously everybody went with it because everyone needs a lot of money right now.
Right.
So basically everyone's in on it. And then when the phone call comes, I was trying to figure out what happened. And one of the things that they keep bringing up in this segment is how, only half an hour passed. How the fuck did we go from the dining hall to here, to this prison cell? So the biggest, of course the detective isn't there, so it's not 100% proven that only half an hour has passed, but that's the love of Umineko, right? You need to trust the writer, and dismissing everything in EP4 is just not trusting the story. So believing that yes, only half an hour has passed, the theory I came up with is that because everyone's in on it, they don't even have to go to an underground cell. They can just have the phone call right there with everyone alive, and only the people that would be quote unquote alive would be the ones to actually speak on the phone. And the reason they are so intent on Jeshka not fucking going to the mansion is because that's where everyone is. If Jeshka went in there, she would find everyone alive.
Yeah, that's something I agree to, yes.
Yeah. Oh, and then for the rest of the story, you don't even need to separate them into two groups like we were discussing previously. They're just all alive. And then we'll get into it next episode when we actually discuss what's happening during the battle scene of Jeshka and George. But yeah, as of right now, everyone's alive. Everyone's in on it. Everyone's going through this farce. And yeah, sure, you got the whole fantasy aspect, but also straight up telling all of these adults about the fantasy narrative you built up and having them not fuck up the details would be really hard. So I think the false narrative that Sayo gave everyone to follow was just that Kinzo showed up with his friends. Because that's what Goda tells George when they are closing the windows.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's really all the crazy magic stuff that was discussed in the narration. That would be really, really hard to recount and keep consistent,
yes.
right? It's not like Saya was okay, guys, so these are my OCs. This is what they wear. This is what their personality's like, and this is exactly what happens play by play.
Which is not, yeah, I agree that that's definitely not what happened.
Right, exactly. So when Goda and Kumasawa come in, then they say, Jessica, your mom is dead. Everybody's dead.
Oh my
but
God.
We can't really explain what happened. It's just that somehow their faces got magically cut in half. So we can confirm the identities of everybody who died. It's okay, that's oddly specific, but I get it. It's shocking. It's weird. But that whole vagueness about the situation, as we've learned by now, that's the basis of magic. Magic can be used to fill in the gaps. You can say, yeah, there was a magical airplane that was carrying around a tiny explosive bomb that exploded in everyone's heads. Or there were these bunny girls who had a magical sentient...
Really Obama the whole situation,
Right. Exactly. So it's probably one of the bigger hints regarding the truth of magic, even though it's been laid out to the reader multiple times. I personally did not get it at first, but now reading it again, I'm oh, that's interesting. And you also notice that all the fantastical stuff does not happen in front of Battler because he's holed up in the guest house. And I also wanted to bring up the weird exposition-y talk where everybody's laying out the details of the situation like it's a riddle. That's kind of as we know now, this fourth episode, it's kind of what is it? It's a forgery by...
It's a forgery by Toya and Ikuko.
Okay, cool. So they were actually straight up writing a mystery novel that is supposed to be solved, right?
Supposedly.
And they're giving the reader really, really big hints. It's almost like you're reading an activity book. And I just felt that the weird stilted conversations that all the characters were having with each other was really indicative of that, now that I know what I'm reading, or in the context of the story.
Yeah, and on the topic of Ikuko and Toya writing EP4, as we agreed upon on the authorship episode, the meta world is not present on the stories they write, so literally all you have on EP4 is just a butler sitting around in the guest room, sometimes receiving phone calls. That's all you have. You don't even have the other clues.
Yeah.
Like, you only have the things that Kraut says to Jessica, that Shannon says to George. That's all you had. Which is just interesting. I wasn't trying to make a point. It's just something
It's an interesting...
Wait, the meta stuff, like the magic stuff, like every scene that doesn't have Battler in it, that's not written in the story, you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, like, for example, the scene where you see everyone on the cell, that's not true. That's just the fantasy convoluting the mystery.
Right.
That's not part of the forgeries that Ikuko and Toya write, because they
Oh, okay, yeah.
They write they write it like a mystery novel. Like, you see what the detective sees.
Right, and then the magic, like the whole magical muddling, is like Battle, or I guess Toya trying to remember or like fill in the gaps. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, some of them are. Others are really just, a meta world that doesn't exist in real life. It's just a part of Umineko, the story.
Got you. Okay, cool.
Like, I swear to God, Lorenzo, I cannot recommend you enough to go watch the authorship episode.
I'll do my best, but I have so many games to game on.
You could just literally listen to it while you're doing something else.
You're right. I can't do that. I have exhausted all my podcasts while I was sick, so I'll put that on the list.
I was gonna say, Des and I actually listened to most of the episodes we put out. I'm pretty sure Des listened to all of them, yes. And it doesn't even matter if I was the one who edited the episode. I usually listen to them while they get posted. So yeah, I mean, the authorship episode is not even complete. It's crazy that we did 2 hours of it, and now I just want to do more because there's so many things that I haven't even talked about. Like, for example, I know somebody else in another comment section asked us, why is Ainge not in the story of EP1 and EP2 if Sayo didn't necessarily, did Sayo knew about, like, and Angie is there or not? Like, I have two interpretations, which is Sayo wrote, of course, like, versions that have Angie in it and have Angie list in it, like, basically, like, what if Angie was also there? But I also love the interpretation that Sayo just doesn't like Angie, so there's multiple points where Battler says, oh, there's only 4 cousins and there's 2 boys and 2 girls, and then that perspective, like, Sayo just writes like, yes, Angie doesn't exist. In my perfect world that I have, like, Angie doesn't exist.
Yeah, and your idea that maybe there were bottles that did have Angie and bottles that didn't also goes along with the, I'll get into it later, but with the fickle-ish nature of the witch.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's also another possibility, which is just that, just like they called the family on the island to say, yo, Butler's coming this time, maybe Angie was already sick at the time, and they just, like, they did not expect Angie to get better by the time of their departure, so they were just like, yeah, Angie's not coming, even though there's still like 3 days till the conference.
Yeah.
Like, that's around the time I started writing the message bottles, because it's kind of implied that they started writing the bottles when they figured out, when they were told Butler was coming. So
yeah, I mean, I actually have a lot of thoughts about when they start writing about the bottle. My personal interpretation is Sayo has been thinking about writing these bottles for a while, and then basically the moment when they were like, oh, Ballar's might show up this year, maybe like they heard about it earlier than the year, like during summer or something, and they were like, fucking lost it, man. Just been like 3 months writing bottles. I don't know. I don't necessarily know about the timestamp. I don't really know how many bottles they wrote and so on and so forth.
I want to imagine that Sayo was writing these bottles like 24/7, like not even doing work, because like
she doesn't really have to, like, she just do it.
Yeah, she got all the gold, right? And now it's like her full-time job just to straight up like
it's just her
right
full-time job.
Well, so I heard that Stephen King was kind of crazy when he wrote his books. He was like on crack or cocaine.
He was.
I don't know. This might be
no. He was definitely on crack cocaine. Like that's his whole thing. Like that. Like as in like a lot of his stories is just about like, oh, like a writer who's an alcoholic got hit by a car. Like that writer is him. Like he's the alcoholic that got hit by a car.
So Sayo is just Umineko Stephen King.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. We solved the mystery, everybody. Nice.
I do want to mention, since Corey Coleman spends a lot of time in Art's comment section and writes very intense stuff, so I do want to acknowledge one of them, like some of them. So I thought it was really interesting that they brought up the fact that Kirie like in Kiria's phone call, she talks about all these like magical components and like how all of that, and the goldsmith, like maybe grandfather wants to test you. Corey Coleman suggested that part suggests that Kirie, that's a part of Kirie's narrative, because how he says that kind of matches up with the fact how in EP7, that's kind of like their narrative. It's like, oh, grandfather wants to test you. That's why you have to come here alone, like, And
yeah, that's interesting.
I thought that was a very interesting point. I think I agree to some extent. I think what I don't know if I agree with is like, then why did Kiria said all those crazy ass things right before she died? Or did she knew she was gonna die? Like, what was that whole thing about? Like, I just don't really understand.
We'll get there. You still got like 2 episodes to make up your mind, Mushroom. Don't worry.
We still have 2 episodes. I think like what really like makes this part hard is because how vague it is all written. I feel like in early episodes there's a pretty good 1-to-1 ratio of like, oh, this is what happened and this is what magically happened. And then EP4 it's just like, actually, JK lol, you don't know jack shit.
Actually, that's one thing I really like about Umineko is that it sets up this world and it explores so many of the possibilities that you can do with this world that it has built up. For example, like what you're mentioning, you have this the first 3 episodes have this almost 1-to-1 correlation between what's happening on the fantastical narrative and what's happening on the mystery narrative. And then in EP4 it's just like, but what if I do Kishi explore the possibility of there's just very little correlation between the 2 aspects of the narrative.
There's nothing. It's just so funny to me.
There's some correlations, like the half an hour thing, for example.
Yeah, I mean the half an hour thing, I think it just comes up like they're like, oh, it's so weird. How is it half an hour? I feel like it just shows you like, yes, there's no way they have left. They are lying. Every illusions to illusions, man.
Okay, Will. I have thoughts as well. So Shannon says this time Beatrice-sama didn't make an appearance and the master left his study. So, okay, have Shannon and Kanon ever been this aware before? Because I don't think they have.
No, they haven't. I feel like this is actually really funny because this is the type of things that like if anything tips people off, like, oh, the Shannon and Canon are all in on it, is people read this part and people are like, and this proves that like they were in on it.
But still,
I liked the part where I just like the part where Virgilia or someone is like, wow, or Gap's like, oh, Shannon Cannon, you're so obedient, you're staying inside the cage even though you can totally leave.
That too.
You think it's because of the magical powers that they have, but then it's because, they're behind everything. Like, they're playing their part really well. And even though Gap and Virgilia and Renove are kind of like made up, well, not necessarily made up characters, but like they're complimenting Shannon and Cannon, it's like, oh, it's the Obama meme again. Where Obama's giving himself a medal. It's like, oh, you're committed to the bit.
But yeah, it's just weird that they have never been this aware before. Like, Shannon and Kanon have always been aware of Peto, but they have never been aware of previous swoops. So is this just a product of EP4 having so little correlation with what's actually going on?
I don't know, man. EP4 is structured really weird in that way that I just like don't really understand. Like, I feel like in previous episodes they do have kind of amount of knowledge, like, and they're like, oh no, maybe you're gonna get picked and like by Beatrice, or like, but they don't really talk, or like they're like, our lives are not really that important. But like, I don't know if this is Rui Kishi just trying to cram in as much like hints possible after like before the end of UE4. Like, I don't really know. Like, it's funny because I watched multiple people's playthrough and a lot of people arrive at the fact that Shannon and Canon are in or Shannon is Beatrice at the moment when they read that part.
I just found it weird. But yeah, I have another question about this scene though.
Sure, go for it.
Like, Shannon mentions having been on the Golden One before. When does that happen? Like, what is she talking about?
I think she meant that she found happiness.
Yes, exactly.
End of her life.
That's what I think so too. I think when Shannon's talking about I've been to Golden Land, it just means I was happy once. Like, I was like at one point in my life, I thought I got it all worked out, and I know what I was doing, and then shit happened more, and then I wasn't. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what I think it means.
I also really like the way she describes the Golden Land. It's like, it's not a land of pleasure. It's just zero. You don't feel bad, but you also don't feel good.
It's a land of content. That's what I think I see it as.
Right. So here's the thing. Like when you die, everybody's there, right? It's a matter of what state of mind you were at when you died, right? Would you rather be a Shannon who is like always optimistic, knowing the color of the ocean, be poetic about it, or would you rather be Canon who can't see the good in anything no matter what happens, right? Like you could, they're two opposite ends of the spectrum, and we know it's Sayo's compartmentalized outlooks on life, but Shannon kind of gets really poetic about it. Says, "Canon, you should Umineko no Nakokoro ni some bitches," and like live life to the fullest, right?
Yeah.
So very interesting. Like I appreciate how succinct it was in relaying one of the main points of the story in like that small conversation. I mean, they've had the conversation like 10 times, but at this point they only had to say like 10 lines each, and it was like a done deal, just getting the point across.
But even so, all the previous times, Shannon is in the position of being like, yes, golden one equals good. Also, be positive, Kano. But here, like, even the fact that she's saying, I've been to the golden one once, and then just describes this as this world of nothing. It feels like she's been to the golden one and didn't like it. So I think what she's saying is this is Sayo speaking. She's like, I've had happiness with George, but I did not actually feel happy. Like, there's just, we were happy, but under all of these conditions. I cannot be truthful with him. He doesn't know who I actually am. I'm always worried that he'll find out the truth and reject me. I think that's what she's referring to when she's like saying like, I've been to the golden one and it wasn't actually that good.
Oh, okay. So it's more like a suicide ideation sort of deal. Like, oh yeah, I can't wait for me to not feel anything anymore.
I can't wait to just have those things stop. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, if I ended up with George, yeah, I get it. Like,
which could also just
horrible.
Just be like, this is something I just came up with, so it may be wrong. But because both Shannon and Kano, for the first time, are being aware of previous whoops, and because of this conversation we just had about how maybe Sayo is starting to realize that she isn't actually happy with George because of all of these things. Maybe this is Sayo in the basement writing the bottles. She's gotten to the fourth bottle and is like, maybe I'm starting to realize, I'm not feeling this at all, actually. Maybe I don't want to be with George.
It took that long to figure that out.
Like, do you know what I mean? She's just like...
Yes.
She's been writing these tales as a way of coping, and I think she's reaching the realization that her and George will just never work out.
Right.
I mean, I also just think like in the back of Shannon's head, in the back of Sayo's, or in the front of Sayo's head, is that Sayo know that she doesn't necessarily even want like George and her to work out. Like she doesn't believe that it would work out. Like, okay, I wanted to put this on record, but like, I feel like my thoughts about George has really softened throughout my years of reading, or just not years, but during this whole reread and us talking a lot about Umineko and me going on Twitter, because it made me hate George less. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's very funny to make fun of George and like, George incel man, like, but like, it's also important to basically see him as like he's also a very interesting character, and it always make me think about the fact that like it's easy for us to hate on Jordan and think like Jordan may have never have accepted Sayo, but like what if he did? Like, like maybe he did, like he would have wanted to been with Sayo no matter what, like, and it would
yeah. That's a possibility, but this is Sayo going down.
Yes, exactly. Like it's, but the thing is, like Sayo didn't want that. Like Sayo didn't believe that. Like even if George had told that to her, like Sayo wouldn't have believed it, and Sayo would have killed him anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like Sayo in a way didn't know how to be happy. The only version of Sayo, like only version that Sayo knew is Sayo would be miserable. So even in the end, like, in the very, very end of the story, when Sayo was presented the possibility of maybe I can live happily, Sayo chose not to deal with it.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Like in the very end of EP8, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, she drowns herself. Oh my god.
Like that's what I mean. Like Sayo is like, and like at that moment, Battler was ready to like take like as in like accept everything she is and tell her like maybe you should live on and maybe we could both figure our shit together. Like, you know, like at that moment, like Sayo and Battler could have really like, I don't know, supported each other and like talked through all their traumas and like became the two people who could have supported each other. But like Sayo rejected that, like, you know, like even that if that was the thing that she could have had.
Yeah, it would have always been eating her away from the inside.
Yeah,
and she realized that. Yeah, there's other explanations, but it's a nice layer that I had never thought about for the finale.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
I have another thought.
Okay, go for it.
What is the purpose of sending the money to the other guys, right? So, first reason is, wow, which is fickle. That explains everything in Umineko. The other reason is that, well, thinking of Beato and Sayo as two sides of the same coin. In one hand, you got Beato, who hates boredom, so like a certain victory wouldn't be amusing to her. So she's like adding another thing that could disrupt her victory. Besides the epitaph.
I think Sayo feels bad.
I'll get to that.
Sayo feels.
Okay, let's start with Sayo. Sayo wants to be stopped, straight up.
Yeah,
Sayo wants to be stopped.
Yes.
So she sends this in hopes that for some reason the letters will arrive early. And like, Kirie, I guess, for example, will open the letter and be like, what the fuck? I'm not dead. What does this mean? I mean, I don't think the letters say they're dead.
No.
But it's like a letter that would be sent by that family household. So
I mean, it would just be extremely weird, and I would have completely disrupted everything. Like, you know, like it's a large sum of money anyway. Like that's also true. But maybe the money that she would be sending them would be enough for them to not even have to go to the conference in the first place, or just like completely disrupted whatever the fuck they were trying to do. Basically,
yeah,
I do agree.
And then on the battle layer, it's not only because she doesn't like boredom, right? So losing conditions, but also I feel like I'm always bringing this up even though nobody is counter-argumenting it, but like in my mind I am counter-argumenting my own takes. So like you could argue that it's like, yeah, but like Sayo is being sponsored by Lady of Certainty Lambda Delta, so why the fuck is she doing these counterproductive moves? Wouldn't that disrupt the certainty, like the sponsorship? And it's just like, in this meta layer, Lambda sponsorship, Lambda certainty over Beato is just that the island's gonna explode. Like, this is a story written retrospectively. So, like, anything you write within the cat box has to end with there being no evidence. It has to end with Beato's victory. So you can throw in as many things to win, to make Beato lose, that the result will always be the same.
Interesting.
So that's why it doesn't disrupt the certainty.
I feel like this is actually a really funny conversation because while I don't really know if I agree with your thoughts about certainty and uncertainty, because like it's just always the type of thing where I'm not sure if this applies here, but I did actually read this really interesting Reddit comment that I'm going to bring up because I thought it was good. I don't know if I can find the exact comment, but I'm just going to paraphrase it until I find it. But basically speaking, what they wrote about is that they wrote, why is Burn the villain, basically? Like, why is Burn like the miracle the villain? Like, as
framed as like the bad guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's real easy. It's because we change our alliance. We side with Beato.
No. Like, okay, we have had this conversation. If I thought this was a thing I was gonna mention again, I wouldn't have said those things.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, so they said like the reason why Burnka Cell is the villain is because in the story of Umineko, miracles are actually not that great of a thing. Like, as in, like, in the world of Umineko, basically a string of quote-unquote miracles made the Umineko world even was able to exist. Basically, like, for example, like, Sayo could have simply fell off the cliff and then died, you know, then it wouldn't have mattered. Like it was a miracle that she was, like, survived, and, like, you know, it was a miracle. It was like a miracle that, like,
She solved the epitaph.
That's how she solved the epitaph, or the miracle that Battler, this or it's like these are kind of things that you would have thought would have been a good miracle, but like or just like a crazy chance that like end up being that way. Like it was a miracle that like literally Battler was gonna come back that year, and but it was also at the same time like George was gonna propose to her. Like, you know, all these supposedly you would have thought like very great things that like
that actually are very bad.
It's actually really bad. And I read that comment and I was like, that's actually a really interesting way to think about Umineko, which is that like miracles weren't good. Like it was a miracle that Battler survived, like, you know, after the fucking drought, like after, but then is that a good thing? Like, you know, like it was a miracle that like Angie didn't go onto the island. Like, is that like, was that a good thing for her? Like, it was a miracle that Eva fucking, out of all the fucking things that happened to her, survived and got off the island. That was definitely not a good thing for her.
Yeah.
And so that's why in Umineko, Byrne is the villain, because they're fighting against miracles. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if I 100% agreed with it, because of course, like the person underneath that comment, like immediately start arguing, like if they thought that was good, because they were like, oh, you know, you kind of pushed it a little bit hard, and like they didn't agree with it. But I thought was pretty interesting, like how the person argued for it. So yeah,
I think it's an interesting symbolism that, like, yes, the witch of miracles, and then Umineko's literary story about how bad miracles come disguised as good miracles.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, I thought that was a very good, like, very cool thing that somebody wrote in a Reddit comment. I love reading Umineko Reddit when I like to read it, and then the rest of the time it's just bad.
Lorenzo, you were gonna say something?
Oh no, sorry, no, I just made noises.
Okay, so I was gonna say something else, which is like we've talked about this on the authorship episode, how like by this point Angie has read the EP8 version that the butler in Toya has written for her, in hopes of Angie like understanding the message that this journey is pointless and there's other things to look forward to in life, and you can shape the way you think about past events, basically. And yeah, like I think like if Angie's still going on her journey, like she's probably thinking about the topic, but she hasn't given up on it yet. So I think figuring out the truth about Sakutaro is the final nail in the coffin, because it is a really nice parallel to her journey. It's like this truth that is actually really painful if you actually tell it to the person involved who did not know about this. And it's just pointless. Like, what is the point of telling Maria that Sakutaro is mass-produced? Like, yes, it's the truth, but you're not happy because you found out about it?
Yeah.
And yeah, and if we go by our theory during the authorship episode, Angie has read the diary already, so she's battling with the feelings that she's feeling after figuring out the truth. So this is like her, I think figuring out about Sakutaro is like a really good digestive tea for her to be like, the truth is meaningless, I don't need the truth. And I think it really puts a nail in the coffin for her to give up on the journey.
I think it's interesting. I still have to say, like, I don't really know how I would exactly put the timeline on EP4, like current EP4, like Angie, into like the grand scheme of what her timeline looks like. So I don't really know if I 100% agree that like that's what it is, but I do agree that the whole thing about Sakutaro, like her seeing Sakutaro really makes her understand that, like, you know, like truth is fucking fucked up and painful, and like it's about like personal understanding. I think it's really funny because every other week I go on to r/Umineko and somebody posts a Reddit post that's like, I don't understand why Umineko is talking words magical thinking or something. And like stuff like that. And I don't really think like, or like, why is Umineko saying like truth doesn't matter? It's just really funny to me because I think like Umineko's truth about that is way more how do I say, like not intricate, but way more nuanced than that. Like, it's about sometimes truth is like, sometimes maybe moving on is the best decision, and so on and so forth. I think it's like, it's cool that way. And I think the whole Sakutaro part which we will get to later on, like in the part where she meets Maria and Beatrice there, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I also thought that, like, even like the fact that the stories that Angie goes on to write, the protagonist, this Sakutaro, I think it's just a way of being like, it would have been really nice if somebody had like actually walked me through coping, and like I think Angie just really realizes that she really just needed someone to understand her. So I think that the books she wrote was kind of her being like, hey, if some kids writing this was going through something similar, at least they'll have someone in these books. Just like I had Maria in her diary.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like her way of, I've been through this and I want to help people who are going through the same.
Yeah, it good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. What else is there too? Is there anything else that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I had a stupid thought. It's just that, wow, it's just like nice. These two characters that literally will not show up again in the VN got a sprite for one scene each.
Oh, actually, no. I do actually have a good point to bring about that. So, interestingly, yes. So, there's 3 characters in this story, in this EP4 that has sprites, which are very surprising. Or 4 characters in total. Kawabata has a sprite, which is fine because, Kawabata actually shows up in other EPs too. But it's very fascinating that Kawabata has a sprite. And then the professor has a sprite. Kumasawa's son has a sprite. And also,
Nanjo's son.
Nanjo-san also has a sprite.
But is it McDonald's sprite?
So why is there important to have all these 4 people to have sprites? I actually thought a lot about this, and I think, like, Yuki's trying to tell something extremely specific and, like, specific about this. Because, like, it is giving the victim a face. I think, like, up into EP3, we're just like, we are finally, like, all the readers are getting in the groove of, like, we're now just killing all these characters over and over again. Like, we're gonna skip to all the best parts, and we're gonna see fun murder and, like, basically enjoy their murders. And, like, while these are characters we like, we know that we're gonna see them next episode because they're gonna all be supposedly revived again, and we will see them die in other interesting ways. I think it's really important in EP4. It basically pulls you out of the story and tells you that, like, while we are enjoying these murders, these were real people that had real relatives that cared about them or were deeply, deeply hurt by the story. Like, I think this would work it would have worked even if they didn't have sprites, but, like, I think it's important to, like, give these people human faces, basically, to see, like, oh, like, this dude who looks like Nanjo isn't sad because his fucking dad died in this, like, fucked up, like, incident. And now also, like, his daughter, which is Nanjo's granddaughter, still died anyway. Like, and, like, they didn't end up using the money that, like, was given to him because he's just like, this is cursed money. Like, why the fuck would I want to take a money that was sent to me after my dad died? Like, Or how Kumasawa's son, who's, like, very, very joyful and, like, and also just, like, has really, like, is very easygoing, who basically tells her, like, like, I would like to remember my mother, like, how she is, and, like, this is all her stuff. Like, if you want to look through them, like, you can plenty find. Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's like a very different ways of, like, this is basically showing Angie the different ways she could have coped after her whole family died. Of course, like, these people only lost one family member, and Angie happened to lose all of them, and, like, these were basically different versions of also her. Like, they were all victims of this whole incident. And also, I think it's important that Kawabata had a face, because Kawabata has all these really in-depth conversations with Angie, and it's important to basically see him as a person who's like, yes, I was the farer who brought them to the island. And because he interacts with her so much, it's like he is, like, also a person who is, like, on the edge of this, like, horrible accident or incident. But so, like, that's one of the reasons why I think that it is good that they had sprites for it. That's why. That's my arguments for it.
You're right, Mushroom. Because that actually adds a lot of weight to the addition of these sprites.
Yeah, because I think I also read this comment on Reddit a while ago because people were like, "Well, why did these people have sprites?" Like, like Yukishi clearly likes drawing cute girls way more than like I don't know, like boring middle-aged men. But I think, and they only show up in this EP. Like, it's not like they were reoccurring characters. Like, it's not like Dalinor or even all the Chesta sisters or even those random ass girls that's behind Dalinor. Like they don't even have like Cornelia. Is that her name? Anyway.
Yes, Cornelia and fuck wait, Gertrude. Gertrude. I fucking had to think back to that video to remind myself of the name of the other girl.
Yeah, Gertrude and Cornelia, which are way less important, but they show up all the time. And I think like it's fun that like Yukishi decided to take his time out to draw these characters to basically ground you more in reality that like these are people that actually died and had real world consequences.
Yeah, and they're showing like, hey Andre, we are still alive. You don't need to die. You can still be happy again.
You can live your life. Yeah, exactly. You can still live on your life and like, make other things and
yeah.
Like these were all people like Ange in a way.
Not to her extent, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for sticking with us up until now. Sea Cats Do Crimes, and we'll catch you later.
Yep.
Goodbye.
See ya.